Hi guys, so we are back and I'm here with my good friend Nantasha. Thank you for watching us. And today's topic is going to be politics. And I'm just going to let the professional here jump into it.
I'm just a humble servant.
So what exactly is it that you do?
So actually I just started a new job.
Congratulations.
I'm a chief of staff to an assembly member, and I'm literally troubleshooting everything to human resources, to making sure the cleaner comes into the office, managing the district office in Brooklyn and also the office in Albany. Communication, so I could be drafting a press release or shoot out a media advisory, any events that are going on in the district. So we do a lot of different informational events. She just did actually a Thanksgiving event, so I would be in charge of coordinating that. And then prior to that, so pretty much I've been working in the state industry. I've been working for the New York State Legislature for the last 3 years. I took a 6-month hiatus when I went to Italy to study abroad. But other than that, I've been working in the same industry for the last 3 years. And my career trajectory has, I guess, elevated relatively quickly. So, I started as communications director. I was working for the caucus, the Black Puerto Rican Scandinavian caucus in Albany. So I was a communications director. Then I was a legislative director, and I was an interim executive director, and then now recently I got another position, which it's great because before I was kind of managing and troubleshooting things for over 50-something people. Now I'm just focused on one member, one area, one district, and then I also get to really be in the community, and that's something that was missing from my prior job because I typically was doing a lot of the high-level political stuff or government stuff or legislative stuff, and now I get to also do community stuff, so really working with constituents that might come in if they have any type of issues and figuring out how to help them. So
that's awesome. This is Black Girls Rock right here, like all on these levels of government and actually effectively making change.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that as a constituent of the New York region.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I guess what we can start with is a question that I've always had is, how does one get involved in politics? Like, I am interested to a certain degree, with what is actually politically happening around me. Especially after my conversation with Jason, there's just a realization that, especially in this whole Black Lives Matter movement, nothing is really going to change until there is some type of political association with the movement, if you will. Like Jason was saying, until you can hold your mayors, your congresspeople, your assemblymen accountable for the actions that are happening, then they're not going to really do anything to effectively make changes that will benefit us as a people.
Right.
So how does someone get involved with politics? My issue has been, it's always like playing catch up, where I know we're having a presidential election soon, and besides the common things that you're hearing on the news about, of course, Trump and then Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, I don't know who the other politicians are. I don't know who I don't watch the
debates.
Those. And I know that that's probably one of the better ways for me to get information, but I feel like I'm always playing catch up,
right? Where
I didn't start at the beginning, so when they're talking about something, I don't understand what these topics are. I don't understand what the issues are. I don't necessarily know why they personally feel how they do or whatever. So I feel like there's so much background information to do to catch yourself up. But by the time you get caught up, you're on to the next topic. So how do you suggest somebody kind of step into the just political awareness arena?
So I want to start by saying that I think, generally speaking, government does a horrible job of including the public in politics, or including the public on what actually happens, right? Like, a lot of the information is very political jargon, so if you're not in the world of politics, you don't know, right? Like, if you're not in the world of politics, you also don't know what type of legislation or issues that are really hot topics at the time. So generally speaking, and this is a larger issue, this is like something, that elected officials and, community need to really speak about, right? Like, how do you streamline it? How do you make the information easily accessible? One, because a lot of times information is not accessible.
Okay.
So how do you make the information easily accessible? One. Two, how do you foster an environment that enables people to participate, right?
Okay.
And to fully understand what's going on. So I just want to start by saying that it is generally really difficult. Like, if you aren't a political nerd or you're not in the field, it's really hard to tap into it, right?
Okay. Thank you. I don't feel as bad
No,
anymore.
do not feel bad. And so personally for me, I kind of got thrown into it, right? Like, yes, I was a political science major in undergrad, but I kind of just did that because I thought I wanted to go to law school, not because I really, really was into politics. So I got super lucky and I got the job in Albany because I also went there for grad school. And so I kind of was pushed into it, right? But there's this whole world of politics that was happening around me that I had no idea of. And I think the first thing to getting involved is to register to vote. It's very simple. It's painless. It's to register to vote and really try to take an active interest in the local elections that are going on. Register to vote. Another thing is getting familiarized with the local civic association groups and nonprofits. So, in the Queens area, we have like NAACP chapters or National Action Network chapters, or, a lot of neighborhoods have civic associations. Where you might have a block association.
I was going to ask you if that's similar, because I know my grandma's part of like the block association over here.
Yes, it's very similar because what happens is elected officials realize when people organize themselves, right? Because that's votes for them.
Right.
So
Okay.
if you're organized around an issue, it just makes you valid, right? Not to say that one person isn't valid, but there's strength in numbers. So I think really, one, voting, two, tapping into the local civic resources. Like I said, whether it be a nonprofit organization group that's doing a lot of advocacy work, or whether it be a block association or a civic association, or even a party club, or there's different party clubs in the area. If you're Democrat or Republican, whatever, like get involved in like your local political club. That's another way to get involved. Another way to get involved or to just be abreast of what's going on is to occasionally look at the news. I have to look at the news for work, and it's not my favorite thing to do, but I know it's really important for me to stay abreast of what's going on. And I would say an easier way to do this is getting on people's listservs, because then the information just comes to your mailbox, right? Okay. So like, even if you're on your elected officials listserv, or email, newsletter, blast, whatever, or if you're on a listserv for some other civic groups, or even up to the presidential candidates, right? Like, sometimes I have to like tell them I don't want these many emails, because you get a lot of emails, but that's still helpful. A lot of times those emails are fundraising emails, but sometimes those emails actually do give you valuable information so you understand what's going on.
Got it.
So those to me are like the very quick and easy ways, not that quick, but easy, non-painless ways to get involved. But a lot of it starts with you being proactive, because as I mentioned before, is that it's really not that easy to crack into it. You really have to want to do it. You really have to be proactive enough to like seek the information, which is unfortunate. And I don't think that people should have to do that, like as citizens of the state of New York, or as citizens of the United States of America. I don't think that we should have to be forceful to be involved in a system that's designed for us, that we essentially, that represent us, that is supposed to serve and
we're governed by it. So
that we're governed by it.
Step out of the government.
We can't step out of it, but for whatever reasons, throughout the years, or whatever the case may be, the system has become less democratic in terms of like civic participation. So, local government is really important. To me, it's way more important than the federal election. State is really important as well. I think local and the state are synonymous. To me, generally speaking, if you look at like levels of government, state is really important. And this is the difference between federal, state, local, and the powers. Yes, federal government is the federal government. They are the highest level of legislative government that we have. But how this country was made, right, before it was United States, each state was essentially its own entity. So a lot of the stuff embedded in the Constitution gives a lot of state rights.
Got it.
So yes, a lot of things happen on the federal level, and a lot of things come down that affect the state and the local. But a lot of things that happen on each state happen on the state level. They don't really happen on the local level. Like, you always kind of have to get that approval from the state, where the state doesn't necessarily always have to get approval from the federal government.
Got it.
On some things, yes, but not major things. Whereas, like, the local government typically always has to get some type of approval from the state. For instance, like taxes. The state controls what happens with taxes and how taxes are handled, and like the state determines that, right?
Okay.
And so, as I was saying, not voting in a presidential election, whatever. I think everyone should vote just because. And let me sidebar, because this is an interesting thing that I like to say. Because yes, although you might not feel like your vote counts in the world of technology,
right?
They are looking at statistics,
okay.
right? So data mining, like Obama changed the game with data mining.
What's that?
Data mining is when they extrapolate information about voters and their willingness to vote, and essentially use that information to target them.
Okay.
So 18, black, family income of 50,000, right? They use that data to figure out how to best reach you as a potential voter, right? But they also use it in targeted messaging, right? Like, if they see that in one area, no minorities voted, only white people voted, how is that message going to be framed, right? It's going to be framed to the voting population.
Right.
And so that's another thing that I love to mention, because it's like, okay, fine, whatever. You think your vote doesn't matter, but in a creepy kind of way, it does, and you should vote so you could come up in that statistic. So you can be, yes. So
they should direct something to you. So they should be paying attention.
They should be paying attention to you, because they see, oh my gosh, like, all of these people. That's how Obama won. You know, all of these people that typically were not on the voter rolls came on the voter rolls. You know, Obama was really good at getting young people on the voter rolls, because that's typically the population that is least likely to vote, and getting minorities on the voting rolls, which is another population that's least likely to vote. That's essentially why he won both terms, because he, first of all, activated them, got them on the voter rolls that they typically were not on. You know what I mean? And so they didn't capture, before him, they weren't capturing those people on the voter rolls. So, I mean, it's, to me, in my humble little opinion, it's important to vote, because you want to be the statistic, right? We typically don't want to be the statistic
you want to be.
But this is a statistic that you want to be in. You want to be in a statistic, right?
You want to be in that group of people that they're looking for information from.
You want to be in that group of people. But going back to voting in, local, state versus federal, the difference is that local government, your vote directly matters. They count up each vote, right? So that's really important, right? Your vote really determines whether or not someone's going to be in office. And as I was saying, in terms of like state rights and federal rights, that's important, because these people are essentially the main people that are making legislation pertaining to what's going on. Quick example that everybody knows about in New York City that everybody can relate to, Eric Garner, right? Special prosecutors. The federal government cannot determine whether or not a special prosecutor is always assigned to police-involved fatalities for unarmed civilians, right? Like, the federal government does not determine that. The local government does not determine that. But the state government does, right? That's legislation that will come up on a state Senate or a state assembly floor, right? And so that's important, because as people are protesting, which I am totally for protesting, because I feel like you have to be multifaceted in your approach for social change. But as people are doing this, you also have to think about who the decision makers are. The reason why people protest is because they're trying to gain the attention of the decision maker or of the people in power, right? And so, like, by doing that, by protesting, you're trying to gain the attention of these electeds, right? Or these other people appointed officials in these various positions to really, make some changes that would have a positive effect. So, I mean,
it would be amazing if all those protesters were actually registered voters. So it sounds like that is the quickest way to get the change makers, or the ones that have the power to actually make change that we would like to see. That seems to be the way to get their opinion. With all this,
that is extremely a way to get their opinion. And, I always have to pause, because sometimes the certain things that I say, it's like, it doesn't sound right, but it's the truth, Like, it doesn't sound right to say they want to stay in office and they care about who's voting for them, right? That doesn't sound right, because you would think they care about the community and they want to make a difference. And yes, a lot of them do want to make a difference, and a lot of them do care about the community, of course. But a lot of them, because it's a job, they get paid for it, right? It's power, right? And so, like, it's really, 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 really extremely important to understand that, there's power in numbers. And if you attack people in their numbers and voting, right, because they have the state elections are every other year. So, if
you have the power to make a change.
You have the power to make a change. You just have to.
If you don't like what they've been doing, pay attention. You can get them out of office.
Exactly. Just have to be collective, and people have to be active participants, which, unfortunately, is not always the easiest thing to do. Right? Like, as I said, it's not.
But it does sound relatively easy when all it is paying attention to the decisions that they're making on your behalf.
Right.
And if you don't like those decisions, actually vocalizing that you don't like the decisions by either electing someone else into office that you feel will represent you better and your beliefs and what you would like to see happen. And I guess, rallying people that believe collectively in what you believe in to help you make those changes.
Right. I think the collective part is the difficult part.
Right.
It's easy. Yeah, like you said, it's easy, but it's not
in theory,
as
it's easy. But effectually, it just actually getting it to happen is probably the most difficult part.
And getting people, like, for instance, like, people that have an interest care, even if you don't understand or you don't know politics, if you want to know politics or you're kind of somewhat interested in what's going on around you, you are a small fraction, right? There's so many people in our communities that are sleeping, right? They're totally not conscious of what's going on. And then you do have people that are very conscious of what's going on, but maybe their method of being conscious could be combined, right? I'm not going to say it should be changed, because I do think that it's important, but their method of change could be combined with other methods to make it more effective. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's really about empowering people. And that's kind of why I made that comment about, I think it's a government's job. You have to empower people to be involved, right? But does the government really want everyone to be involved?
No.
I don't know.
I don't think
that was
so.
kind of a conspiracy theorist question, but, like, do they really want the bulk of America to really be paying attention to what's going on? We might have an overthrow. You don't know. I'm just saying, like,
a lot of people wouldn't be getting their agendas pushed if everybody were involved.
People benefit off of people not being aware.
Absolutely. You get away with all types of shit. For example, look at work. If you ain't working, people not paying attention to you allows you to not work. So if people aren't involved in actually making sure that your projects are followed up on, then you get away with not having to actually do your job, and you still get that check. Same thing with government. These are people that have jobs. So if nobody is paying attention to what it is that they're making decisions on and how they're deciding, then they're going to get away with doing things that benefit them, the people that look, sound, and act like they do. Whereas that's not always us. That's not always us. In some cases, for those that are, leading for the people that they serve, then it's a great thing. And if you elect those people into office, then that's what we can all benefit.
Right. And something else you said that I thought of that triggered something is that who's deciding and what they're deciding on and how they're deciding, right? Because that's really important. How they're deciding, because things are going to come up all the time. It's like, well, how did you decide? And a lot of times, especially on the New York State level, it's really hard to even get that information, right? You have to be only true advocates that are getting paid, that have money, or lobbyists. They're the people that constantly know exactly how a particular elected official voted on various different pieces of legislation, right? For the average person, you work, you might have kids. You don't have time to sit there and try to figure, because you will have to try to figure it out. It's not easily accessible information. You have to try to figure out how to get this information. Once you figure it out, it's easy, as we said, right? It's not that hard, but you know, you have to have that proactive nature about you. And if you don't have that proactive nature about you, unfortunately, you won't be receiving the information that you need to receive. So, I mean, it's really important. And then, truth be told, you know, yes, there are people in office that do not look like us, and there's people in office that really, really, really don't mean any positivity towards minority and low-income communities. But then you'll be really surprised. People that look like you, you know, they're also not doing as much as they could do for you. And that's something that, you know, is not talked about as much, but it's very true. You know, like I remember an assembly member making this analogy, and it's so true. Like, if you look at Ferguson and if you look at Baltimore, right? Ferguson, pretty much all white people running the city of Ferguson. Look at Baltimore, totally different. Totally different. Black police chief, black mayor, you know, what yada yada, black prosecutor, like all this stuff. But they have the same issue happen. They have the same outcome. So it's, yes, it is, I strongly believe it is important to have representative government in terms of people looking like you in government. That is extremely important.
Just because they look like you doesn't mean they think like you.
Just because they look like you doesn't mean they think like you, doesn't mean that they have the passion and will to do the right thing.
Right. And it's kind of like people saying, oh, what has Obama done for black people? Well, look at what your local government is doing for black people. Because, like, it sounds like Obama doesn't, I don't think he doesn't have the power. He's president of the free world. But he is ruling a nation. He's not ruling your block. He's not ruling your state or your community. Those are the people that you should be holding accountable for what they're doing for black people. If you are looking for someone to make change for your community, it sounds like you should be looking to your local and state government.
You definitely should be looking to your local and state government. Because I feel like even some of the issues that the federal government addresses is so high level. I mean, they're dealing with international things, you know?
Right, they're keeping the country safe.
Yeah, and
shit, that's what I hope.
Right, and not that those things are more important, right? But if you just look at what really affects immediate change and who's really responsible for what. So another random example, like zoning, just random. Zoning is controlled by the local government. So if you have any zoning things, it's really the local government. The state government
and what would
really
constitute zoning? Is that more just
zoning,
like what
like
your neighborhood is called?
Yeah, or like if you want your neighborhood to go from like an industrial zone to a commercial, well, commercial industrial probably the same thing, but like industrial zone to a residential zone, right? You might have to change some zoning laws, but like that's just a random thing I'm just thinking about certain things. It's like zoning laws, right? That has nothing to do with the state government, you know, but other things do, and vice versa. And more things are at the hands of state government than they are at the federal government when it comes to direct action in the local community.
Right, okay. So where can people find you? If someone, are you open to people throwing you political questions, or how they can get, before I even put that, is like, do you have like an Instagram or like anything like that where you would want people, like, if they had other questions that they could reach out to you or something like that?
I am at Nantastic on Instagram, 2 I's, Nantastic on Instagram and Twitter, and then I have a personal Facebook page. My name, Nantasha Williams, Nantasha Williams, and then that's it. I mean, I have an email too, Nantasha, my name, at fantconsulting.com, PHANT consulting.com.
Wonderful. Yeah. So, thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Be sure to subscribe and be sure to follow, like, comment, throw some questions in the comment box, and I can definitely get those over to Nan so we can get some good answers for you so that you can become more politically aware in your local, state, and federal government.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.